Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you. Today, we are doing part 2 of our gratitude series. Reverend Sheila Gautreaux did a beautiful message launching us last week. You pretty much gave my talk, Sheila, so I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but I'll come up with something because that's my job. But the idea, thank you, and if you didn't have a chance to hear Reverend Sheila's message, I really encourage you to get the CD or go to our website, or go to, it's in the, what do we call that, the media center on our website. It's on YouTube. She spoke about the power of gratitude to move us through difficult times as she shared some of her own stories of that transformational gratitude. Really powerful. So I'm going to give some of the same ideas, but with a little bit different language. I think of it as terms of transactional gratitude and causative gratitude. And transactional gratitude is that thing, it's very reactive and responsive. If something good happens to you, what do? What do you say if you get a nice present? Thank you. That's gratitude. It's real, it's good, it's wonderful, and it's responsive to the conditionality of life. Something shifts, something happens, it's in our favor, we feel gratitude makes sense. It's a good thing. But what I'm going to speak to mostly today is this idea of gratitude as a causative force. Rather than it being an effect of something that happens outside of us, that it actually is a cause that we take up within us that then yields a new result in the outer world. In the first letter to the Thessalonians, the author writes this. Chapter 5:18, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you. I struggled with that message because I thought it was telling me to give thanks for all circumstances. That's not what it's saying. It's not saying that when we face those difficult times, what the Gomez family is going through right now, when we face those financial hardships, the loss of the job, the struggles in our relationships, when we face those things, we don't give thanks for the difficult condition, but we give thanks in it. And what it does is that it sets us realigned to the beautiful infinite flow of divine creative energy, that even in this, God will be revealed for our good. If we're willing and able to move ourselves into a space of receptivity of good, to see it before we see it, to speak it even though we don't have it yet, to give thanks that even here, good will be revealed for me. Amen? And what this does is that whereas when we're faced with those difficult circumstances, we could go into despair and hopelessness, we do not. We ground in our faith, and we are moved through those times. And it's because we're given a choice. There's nothing that Spirit ever does to circumvent our free will. We have the choice to give up, or we have the choice to believe in the goodness of God and anchor in our faith. That's what I'm hoping to offer us today, this idea that gratitude can be a choice. And when we do so, it makes us more available for God to use these hard things in our lives, to realign us, to reposition us, to be more useful for Spirit to serve in the world, but also that we get more authentic expression and fulfillment. We get to be more of who we are. I don't know if you know this, but you're an expression of God. Has anybody ever told you that? If you've been coming to this church, you know that. That there is only one life, one presence, one power that reveals its nature in infinite expressions, and you are. Your soul, your spirit, your eternal being is part of God. And you don't always remember it. I watch you. Nor do I. When we come into our mother's bodies, when we take this human form, I think we agree to a spiritual amnesia. That we come into a system where there are belief structures in place in our family of origin. That's why you need to come to John's workshop on Saturday. That we can inherit beliefs from our families just as easily as we inherit eye color. And we come into that. It's not the truth of us, but it is what we've experienced as our experience, and so we believe it. We come into cultural systems where we're told that we are less than an expression of God. And we believe it because that's what we've experienced. Bruce Lipton, who is the epidemiologist, he says that we have, that's not what he is, but I'm going to go ahead and use that word. There's a different thing he is. Epigeneticist, I remembered. He's an epigeneticist. That's a good word. I'm going to say it one more time. Epigeneticist. He says that the first 6 years of life, we have no filter. We just soak up whatever belief systems we are born into. And so we inherit all of these, what we would call in unity, error thoughts, false beliefs, false identities. And all of our work in spiritual growth and transformation is to release those things that are not true of us and never have been true. Michael Beckwith says that all of our spiritual work is subtractive, meaning that there's nothing that we can add to us to make us more a part of God, but there's a lot of stuff in the way in our consciousness, and we release it. And these difficult, hard times, if we're willing to use gratitude as a causative force, they are opportunities for us to release all of those old ideas, maybe not all of them, some of those old ideas, so that we can be more fully, authentically who God has created us to be. And that is the power of gratitude as a causative force in our life. There are so many examples of people in this world who have done this. People who have been born into difficult situations and circumstances and have turned their face towards God and possibility, and they've risen above. Tens of thousands of stories. We know so many of them, and I really have been in love with storytelling this whole year. I've been really enjoying the idea of bringing spiritual principles through a character, through a person. Somehow I can try it on myself a little differently that way. It's not just some disembodied principle, but that's what it looks like when that person steps into it. So I didn't know who I was going to tell you about today. To be honest, all week long I've been thinking about it. My friend Allie's been here, and I've been doing these board meetings, and yesterday I was like, there's a story here. I don't know who it is, but it'll show up. Woke up at 4:30 this morning. Don't know who it is. But I know somebody's going to show up, and thank God for St. Google. Do a search for people who have overcome adverse circumstances. You're going to be given some choices. I think I got about 20 million hits. Still didn't know. And then I saw this face. Not that face. This face, and I knew. A lot of you already know who it is. This is Oprah Winfrey. Oprah was born to a teenage mother. Not planned, not looked for, this pregnancy. She grew up in rural Mississippi. She was shuffled back and forth between her young mom and her grandmother. Her grandmother was, she had a lot of backbone, you could say. She had a very strong will and a belief in the way things were to be, and she believed in corporal punishment, meaning that if you did wrong, you got the switch or the belt. I had a little of that in my childhood. But Oprah talked about one time when she was very young that she had put her finger in the bucket of well water, and her grandmother beat her so severely she had welts across her back that bled. And when she went to church, the blood had gotten on her Sunday dress, and her grandmother beat her for that too. So there was cruelty. There was an unrealistic expectation of who she should be. And you can imagine the messages that Oprah got about who she was and her worth and her value in that setting. And she grew up in that kind of of a way. And it wasn't all bad. Her grandmother taught her to read before she was 3 years old. And she developed a lifelong love of language. She recited Bible verses in her grandmother's church, and she received some praise and recognition for that, and some possibility began to spark in her. But she didn't have the self-esteem or the right support to carry that forward, and she struggled. And she was sexually abused as a young girl, which led to more sexual abuse. And she herself became pregnant at 14 and gave birth to a baby, and the baby died shortly after birth. You can get a sense of where this beautiful little girl is headed if you didn't know it was Oprah. This would be another sad story of a life that got off track and never had much of a chance to amount to anything. But there was an intervention at that moment. She went to Memphis to live with her dad, and her dad was also stern and strict, but he had a deep appreciation for education and the value that it had given him in his life, and Oprah said that he was unwilling to accept that she could not be more than she was. And so he forced her into her studies, and that's where the miracle began to occur. She credits those teachers for loving her into loving herself. She was gifted, a great ability with language. She joined debate and speech and was an absolute A student. She became president of her high school there in Memphis, got a full ride scholarship to University of Tennessee, and she continued to thrive and discover her power and her gifts. She knew that she wanted to do something with language and with people, and so she became a television reporter, and she failed. How many of you have you kind of know where you're going and you're in the right city, but you're in the wrong neighborhood? Have you ever been there? Have you had those experiences? I know I'm supposed to do something with this, but I'm doing this and this ain't it. And that too becomes a choice for you. Well, I guess I was wrong. I'm not supposed to be nothing. Or you go, no, I'm close. This isn't it. And that's what Oprah did. And she got a talk show opportunity. You know, she was fired for being a reporter because she was too emotional. She became too emotionally attached to the stories. Sometimes the things that we think are problems are our gifts. Amen? You know how the story ends. You're way ahead of me. But in her talk show, that empathy worked well for her. She could relate to people. She may be the most relatable human being on this planet, don't you think? Don't you feel like you could just sit down and have a cup of coffee with her like you've known her your whole life? That's the level of empathy and warmth that she embodies. And that was the secret of her success. I think we have a different picture of Miss Oprah. That she was the first woman. Do we have that other photograph? Thank you. Thank you. I know it's coming. There she is. There's Oprah. Beautiful. She has money to pay people to help her look like that. Oprah Winfrey is the first woman on the planet Earth to become a self-made billionaire. That's incredible. And yeah, absolutely. And if you've ever paid any attention to her old talk show or the kind of programming she does, she's a unity kind of a gal. There's something she understands this deep connection of spirit and the possibility teaching. She's had Michael Beckwith on her show a couple of times. She's had a lot of our teachers and authors, and she interacts with them. She did the class with Deepak Chopra and with Eckhart Tolle. She believes in this possibility teaching. So I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what the challenge is. I don't know what the thing that you didn't ask for, but here it is. I am telling you that there is a choice you are being offered. Are you going to give up, give in to despair, or will you believe that even in these circumstances, something good can be revealed? Since we're talking about gratitude, Oprah talks about the way she integrated her hard upbringing. She says this: I'm so grateful for my years living in poverty because it makes the experience of creating success and building success that much more rewarding. She understands that the hard times make us more available to experience the good. Before I close today, though, I want to just acknowledge that sometimes we can't. There are times that we're not able to summon that gratitude. And what I want to offer is that all is not lost even then because of a thing called grace. That God's grace gets even around the cracks and under the doors of our resistance and our hopelessness sometimes. The title I used for today's message, it's Gratitude in Times of Trouble. And sometimes I just write these things down. I don't really edit or script or think about it. And then it was only this week as I was preparing this message, like, where did I get that phrase, in times of trouble? Oh yeah, when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. Remember that? Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. That song. You know, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, they co-wrote. They actually didn't co-write everything, but they'd agreed to share songwriting credit on all the songs for the Beatles. This was a Paul song. And it came at the most difficult time in the Beatles, near the breakup. All the other three guys were ready to break up the band. And Paul did not want the band to break up. They were recording their last album. He was so distraught by this, the end of this beautiful experience of being a Beatle. Don't you love Allie's English accent? It's like being a Beatle. That he didn't want it to end, and he had a dream one night. And out of his upset and discouragement, his mother came to him. Guess what her name was? Oh, you got it. I thought it was talking about Jesus' mom, but no, it's Paul McCartney's mom. He said it's okay if you think about Jesus' mom too, that's all right. But it was his own mother, Mary. And he says he doesn't remember the communication, but what he remembered of the dream was the embrace and the connection. It was as though she had never left her body. They were so close and connected. And she was aware in the dream of the trouble in his heart and mind. And he said he doesn't think he got the actual phrase, let it be, from her, but that was the message. You don't have to fix this. You can't fix this. You can't control and manipulate your way out of this situation. Let it be. And that is the invitation for grace. Today is November 17th, 2019. November 17th of 1999, by the grace of God, was the last day that I picked up a drink of alcohol and put it in my body. So, if I can make it through the next 12 hours without having a drink, I will be sober 20 years. Yeah. Thank you. I receive your love and your appreciation. Thank you. Thank you. But here's a secret. I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. I tried. If you've ever been in the throes of addiction, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, sure, I wanted to not drink. For many days and months and years, I wanted to, but I couldn't not drink. I couldn't do it. I didn't have the capacity to turn my face towards possibility and presence and summon the gratitude. I could not do it. I was incapable. But there was a moment of grace. When I had been drinking secretly. It had been relapsed for a year and a half. And when I was caught and the secret was out, my partner at the time said, well, you know what you need to do. You need to get to a meeting. And so I went to my first meeting at the Preston Group, November 18th of 1999. I think it was a Monday. But I showed up with my hands shaking, my eyes red, and my face blotchy and puffy, and everything in my body asking for a drink of alcohol. I was a mess. A friend of mine, Christy, was there that day, and we became good friends in recovery, and she said, Michael, Gott, you were squashed flat. She said, you didn't have anything you could do. You were just splat on the ground. And she said, and it was so beautiful, because when you're flat, grace can cover you so easily. Isn't that beautiful? So the reason I'm telling you that story is so I can remind you that even when you can't summon the gratitude, can you summon your squishness? Can you just stop trying to handle it and manipulate and just let it be? I've been saying this all year. I keep thinking I'm going to get to a place in my spiritual evolution where the answer is not let go and let God. I don't think that's going to happen. That is always the answer. I want to sing a song for you. And this is by Andre Crouch. But I didn't write it, but I sure could have. This is in honor of everyone who has contributed and helped me in my journey, in my life. But as I receive your blessing on that applause, it really isn't me that did it. It is God that has brought me. How can I say thanks for the thing you have done for me? Things so undeserved, yet you gave to prove your love for me. The voices of a million angels could not express my gratitude. All that I am or ever hope to be, I owe it all to you. To God be the glory. To God be the glory. To God be the glory for the things He has done. He has changed me with His power. God has raised me. To God be the glory for the things He has done. Just let me live my life. Let it be pleasing, Lord, to Thee. Should I gain any praise, let it go to Thee, all to Thee. With your love, You have changed me. With your power, You have raised me. To God be the glory for the things You have done. Great things You have done. Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live
on Facebook, or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.